early for me anyway, since I don't work. But Sue will be here in a minute to help lead the strategic planning session. And Ann and I were talking, and we think that we will need to extend this strategic planning into the wrap-up session after Vastai's performance. So we're thinking for this first part of it, let's concentrate on strategic planning of manuscripts, specifically for the issue of the Caring Journal, and then any other manuscripts that people have in mind. And I know the Nino and Tetsuya and their team are planning manuscripts. But we can get started now, those of us who are here, to identify manuscripts in progress, manuscripts that we're thinking about, and then maybe we can identify any holes in manuscripts that need to be filled, and think about who might fill those spots. Does that sound like a workable plan?
Yeah.
I guess we probably need somebody to write.
I'm going to try.
Can anybody write better than I can? I can't write good. When I went to camp, we always had to take academic courses or something in summer camp, and mine was always penmanship. So I'm going to start by asking Ann and Amy to tell about the manuscript that we're preparing. And then we can see who else has ideas. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So Ann, you want to start from Amy?
So what Sabina and Amy and I have begun to talk about is using Amy's ethical framework, taking Amy's ethical framework of care-centered framework and looking at the values that come forth from her framework and how they converge with the values of the Dance of Caring Persons and the values of Nursing is Caring. And exploring how Amy might think about languaging perhaps the values in a way that reflects that Dance of Caring Persons. Sabina, you did all the legwork on this, so.
Oh, I transcribed the notes from your thinking and Amy's and my own, sort of like what we're working toward, I hope, is what might be called, okay, my thinking is that a framework for integrating whatever kind of humanoid or non-humanoid robots in as practice partners or partners in caring, is that that framework be grounded in an explicit theory of nursing. So obviously we're going to use nursing as caring. And what the thinking is then to draw on Amy's framework for the design, development, and implementation of robots in healthcare, of healthcare robots, bring that framework in to articulate with nursing as caring and crunch the rough edges so that possibly we can come out with what we might optimistically call a middle-range theory of practice partnership with healthcare robots. Okay? Okay, so that's our promise. We'll see what we can produce.
And is this, these are all for the special issue? This is what we're aiming for?
That's what we're shooting for right now, and then I know Nino has other manuscripts that he's working on that relate to this summer academy that will be placed in, or be sought for placement in other journals, but Zane, can you remind us of the target for deadline for a
That's always
submission?
negotiable, but when you said it, I want you to keep to it. Because the journals accrue, the articles accrue as you go along. So what I thought was, if the due date for manuscripts was like January 1st, 2019, then I could make sure that I popped the articles into 2020, first issue. Because already the third issue is almost done for 2018. I mean, we were a little slow, but I think I have one in the fourth issue for 2018. So
Wow.
I'm kind of moving.
Is that the earliest we can get in?
I would say yes.
Okay,
I
so,
want you to be realistic, because you have authors that you never know, if you've had this lived experience, might not keep deadlines. Okay, that's real. And the last special issue we had a real issue with that, just to use two issues in the same sentence.
So 2019 is really, all of the issues are pretty long.
I would know they're not, Ann, but you've got, Springer wants me to be 90 days ahead with completed material. And I really, since there have been delays with Allen Press, I really worry about the authors, because the authors get agitated, and they should, about not seeing the progress. So that's really, I think, realistic. Because I'm almost done with 2018, and then I'm going to start moving pretty fast on 2019. Now, okay, could you have it in the last issue of 2019? Yes.
What
what would be
that
the deadline for that?
But then the deadline would be maybe, let's say, late October.
Because we're already working with the August 15th deadline. And this has been put out to all the participants in this group and other potentially interested
Well,
authors.
would you say November 1st?
We'll accept that,
Okay, so then,
won't we? November 1st?
Can we hold those two times and then figure out who, as we talk about this, whoever brings
Yeah,
forth, that
we
they'll
could be
commit to
flexible.
this? That they'll commit to that November 1st?
That's what,
yeah.
anybody who's thinking about a manuscript, nod your head if November the 1st seems realistic. I think the Japanese contingent, Nino and Tetsuya and their team, they're already working toward an August 15th deadline. So I don't think November 1st will be any issue for them.
It's only 2 months.
Yeah, the issue, one aspect of the situation is that if things aren't going to come out until 2020, some people are going to get anxious and want to submit to journals that will publish sooner than that. But anyway,
Sabina, I think what I heard was with the November 2018 due date deadline for manuscripts, the publication would be 2019.
yes,
But see,
that's the
really,
latest.
Savannah, sometimes the pressures are hard for the authors. And when people submit with English as a second language, let's say, I look at the manuscripts and basically try to do formatting, mostly, to make it easier at the end in relation to working with manuscripts after the copy editors get a hold of it.
I know Beth has done some work with English as a second language manuscripts, and I have too, and there may be a couple of other people. I personally am willing to do an early review of
Okay.
any manuscripts.
I know you have. I know you have.
So hopefully, when things are submitted to you on November the 1st, 2018, they will have already been through a language review.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's one manuscript. Who else has something in mind? Cyrus, didn't I hear that you had something in mind?
We have completed, it's actually a concept. What we have completed for now is more on patterning, the title is Patterning Emotional Synchrony, something like that. And it has something to do, it's grounded in the nursing as caring field as well. And that's with Mara and all other colleagues
And does it have anything to do with
with withdrawals.
robots? Sue, you can come.
Okay,
Yeah,
can you
take-
repeat that, Sirs?
It's a model patterning emotional synchrony.
Model for, I can't,
It's patterning emotional synchrony.
Patterning,
Patterning of emotional synchrony.
emotional
In
synchronicity,
nursing.
synchrony,
Synchrony.
and the rest of the idea of the title would be with humanoid robots and as practice partners or something like that, right? I mean, how do you bring in the robot idea into the patterning?
It's more on future direction, Dr.
Unofficial direction, is that what you said?
The future directions.
A
How
future
to possibly
direction.
build
Okay,
or
future
embody the
direction.
emotional synchrony between humanoid robots and someone who is being nursed.
That's,
Mara, did you spell your last name?
R-U-I-Z.
R-U-I-Z?
Yes.
Okay, who's the third author?
It's Mark Reynosa. Mark Reynosa.
Reynosa?
Reynosa, Mark
Reynosa, right?
Reynosa.
R-E-N-O-S-A. You know his name? With a little, right? Thanks, got it.
What was the first one? It's the framework? It's the framework.
Yeah.
That's what we want to know.
And you said mid-range? Let me get that before I got other stuff. This is a long title. I'll put mid-range in here. It's like 3 lines.
other ideas. Anne had an idea yesterday, not for her to do, but for somebody to do. Do you remember what it was?
Okay, well, I think I shared this with Claire. Related to our discussion on education and what's called for in transitioning education in order to meet the needs of the future that we have been talking about. So I don't know if somebody wants to pick that up.
You mean undergrad, Ian?
I was thinking that.
We will take up the gauntlet if we see that that's something that would be beneficial to this, is looking at how education fits into this and what we need to look at.
How we need to enrich our curricula
Yeah,
to accommodate this
to
new.
accommodate for our future nurses who will be working in this kind of environment. And how does one continue to sustain, well, the importance and sustainability of the human person providing that quality, compassionate care.
So Claire, that's you and
Dawn,
Okay,
maybe.
International connection.
here's what I want you to do, authors. Tear up a piece of paper and send your names over here so I get the correct spelling right away and any credentials you want. Okay? Just little scraps will do.
turn off your, Claudia,
off your
did you
button.
have a,
Claudia,
Button.
did you have a separate question, Claudia?
You need to put your mic on, Dan.
Well, she needs to turn hers off first. There you go, there you go.
I thought this.
In the vein of education, what I was thinking, since it doesn't have to be a job, since it doesn't have to be for research, I would like to explore the concept of relationships with robots. I'm intrigued with the woman who was talking to her robot and how it elicited an emotion and what that will mean, and then how then do we teach that? I don't know what that means yet, so. How do you do?
There's a lot of research on robot-human relationships.
could use you as a resource. Nancy, does that?
Yeah. I think you have to be, you have to be much more specific. Like you could say, human, so patient-robot relationship in a nursing context, or nurse-robot relationship in a nursing context. So it would have to be much more specific than just human-robot relationship. There's a ton of research already done.
I was thinking more about patient relationship with robots, because I think if we can understand that better,
Yeah.
then you can then design the nursing law.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In
that
a,
you can
in a
do-
nursing context.
Because I would imagine the nurses would say you can't have a relationship with the robot.
Yeah.
And yet you clearly can, because we love our phones.
I think she just had to make sure you put it in the
Yeah.
nursing context.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of, so then you'll have to get into how do you define the relationship? Is it strictly just interaction? Is it measured in good feelings on the part of the human individual? Is it understandability? Is it, so the field of human-robot interaction is looking at ways to measure it, but also ways to define what relationship means.
Okay, so how measured and how defined?
Yeah.
Okay, you and
Nancy?
Who
I
else?
haven't had,
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I can be on that with you.
Oh, yay.
Did you say Amy, you too?
Yeah, Amy,
I got
Amy,
it.
me, and Linda.
Linda? Linda, send over your last name, I can't see it.
Oh,
It's
she
on
just,
that napkin, on that professional piece of paper we gave you.
holy drooler.
Thank you.
So Nancy?
well, I haven't even asked, but Marlene, maybe we could do something about touch. The touch and the robots and nursing or something, since we both are into that.
Yeah, I'd like to join that as well, because I'm already working on robots and touch. If you want, but I don't need to insert myself.
I think everyone wants you to. Dedicate a year to this. Please manage. You're going to be busy.
So if anybody writing about robotic nursing, the one we really encounter in the clinical that like nanorobotics in surgery, or not because we don't have much humanoid yet in the States in the clinical setting. Only one clinic that does that, which we see in our students. They're so realistic out there that in diagnostic and
Is that about caring?
caring, because they're nurses and how we prepare patients for even biopsy with nanorobotics. Nanorobotics.
How we care for patients who are,
I would check the Journal of Nanoethics for publications on nanorobots, because I imagine it's been done, but I'm not.
Okay, give me the nanorobot.
Nano, yeah.
And what?
Yeah, how nurses in the nursing side of it.
how
Nursing.
considerations for caring for patients with, for nurse caring with patients with nanorobotic devices, something like that.
In robotic
Is that what you
surgery.
have in mind?
Experiencing surgery.
Okay, in surgery.
Could you repeat that? Nurse caring for patients with?
Undergoing robotic surgery, nanorobotics.
Do you want to do that?
Preparing patients
Could you pass
for
it?
undergoing surgery with nanorobotics. I think is what he is what
I'm thinking about nursing situations and robots. The authors of the nursing robots are pretty clear in chapter 14 about using nursing situations to program robots. I won't use the word educate, but to program robots about caring for others. I think, Charlotte. Yes.
I think that that's a really good deal of follow-up on that question from yesterday, and how do we use robots in nursing situations to give clarity for practice. One other thing, Sudie, I was wondering, and I know Dr. Kai isn't here yet, but for me, his differentiation between humanoid consciousness and human consciousness was
Fascinating.
really significant, and I wonder if he could write something, if he could. So he's not here.
I can't commit to him.
Do we
but,
put his stand up? No.
He'll be here, apparently he's downstairs getting breakfast.
You can have a card, but at least they remain there.
I'm gonna give it back to you.
And we're going to follow up after
I like the
Bastide's
creds.
performance, but we still have plenty of time
Yeah.
to propose ideas. And then, Zane, when do you want, like, is today, are you expecting commitments today, or do you have a deadline for
No,
commitments?
that brings up a question to me I was just thinking about. If there will be issue editors, I want to make sure I get all the manuscripts after whatever. But I would like to invite the issue editors to write the editorial for this, okay? So there could be, like Savina and Amy, I don't know, who would be an issue editor. And then they could do the editorial, and then they could decide on the final TOC, table of contents, which I'm typing now, which is rough, so it could be cleaned up. But I do like to get commitments, but not absolute, you know what I mean? Because not everybody's in the room yet.
By July 1st.
Yeah,
I
so
suggest
that would be
Nina
up to the
and
issue
Amy.
editors, because if your due date is August 15th already, then why don't you say July 15th, or something like that, to you?
You told us,
October, yeah, to you.
No, I would say for the titles and all that for the table of contents, because I really track the table of contents.
July 15th for a table of contents, for title and authorship.
Yeah, and I'll have this as well to meditate.
And then November the 1st for delivery of the manuscript. As a last day, as a deadline.
11:50.
And so what
Yeah.
is the role of the editors for this?
To collect and keep everybody in line so they submit by the end of October 2018.
Okay, but we're not reviewing?
You will review according to Savina. You
Because I
will be
think there's a-
reviewing the manuscripts.
There's a,
But see, the problem with that is that the authors have to submit directly. You can't for them.
right, but there's multiple problems though, because if I'm also an author on the paper, I've got a conflict of interest, right? I have a
Yeah, you're on
vested
3
interest in-
papers now, Amy,
I
so
know, so
watch it.
I don't think I should be an issue editor if I'm gonna be.
Okay.
I
Well, just was-
suggest-
This is
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, no, of
brainstorming.
course, and I'm just,
It seems
or
that-
you can have me as issue editor and then take me off of these papers.
It seems appropriate to me that Nino and Savina would be the editors of this issue. They co-chair the
Yes.
planning of this, and I think that feels right. Do you accept that?
She's coming out of retirement.
I'm looking on my email.
That's how
I'm
it is.
tenure track.
It's okay. I like the alphabet.
I'll do
Here
it,
you
but
go,
I won't
Sarah.
come off that manuscript that we're writing.
Wait a
Okay.
minute, Amy.
I mean, I'll recuse myself on that one.
What are you recusing yourself on her own?
From the own.
Co-editor with Nino, but she's not going to recuse herself from that one article.
Okay, got it.
And Nino will have something too, and he'll recuse himself from his own.
Yeah,
So Amy, do you want to be issue editor or on papers?
Papers.
She's
Okay.
papers.
I'm tenure track,
Say
any
that.
papers, yeah.
Yeah, she's. Let's
So,
see.
and how do we wrestle with, I mean, I have 5 different papers in my head. There's no way I can make a November 1st deadline. But how, so we're brainstorming ideas for papers specifically for this special issue.
Yeah.
And then we also have the freedom to
Oh, yeah.
explore
Sure. The commitment right now is for
just for
this
the
issue.
special issue.
Oh, yeah, you could send stuff in otherwise.
What about Val? Did you have an idea of how you would use your work on developing the resource bibliography?
I was considering doing
some type of literature review of what just is there, what exists right now in terms of nursing and robotic care. I haven't really developed the idea yet, but that's one of the areas. I was also thinking about the idea of how, we talked about, having it in our curriculums, how are we going to educate our nurses that are actually in practice right now, how are we going to reach that market? Because, when we write in certain journals, we're kind of in a way preaching to the choir. We want to reach new audiences, and so, you're talking about ways that you can open this area of conversation up to, and for nurses that are actually in clinical practice right now, how do they feel about billing?
How about a review of LIM specifically for them
Yeah.
with, guidelines for how to use this resource in their practice? Is that what you're thinking?
I've corresponded quite a bit with Dr. Erickson in Sweden, who does a lot of work with AI and social media and robotics, and so, on how he is there. That's one thing I'm considering.
Katie Erickson?
Huh?
Katie?
No, Henrik Erickson. He's more, his expertise is like AI and social media. Yes? So in this part of that, are you thinking about like a scoping review, a systematic review, or something else?
I'd say integrated. So it's more than just research, but everything that's maybe out there.
It's an evaluation of just what's out there, and,
So that can be different things. There's a whole methodology of that.
Right.
I think
Okay, I'm just
integrated.
going to say literature review. Literature, yeah. And how that would take more to something that needs to be further developed.
It's a rule.
Can I add to, Val, can I add to your lit review?
Yes.
What would be really helpful is, like what's needed is to point out the lack of long-term studies. So there's, they use prototypes or they do some quick, small sample size, short-term follow-ups, but it would be really great if you could show in the lit review the lack of long-term follow-up studies. You're using a robot for more than 5 weeks. Is there anything? I think there might.
This is such a new area
Yeah.
right now that there's really not.
But then what we need is researchers and companies to commit to using a robot for a year, using a robot for 2 years, and then see what happens. And it would be great if there was a lit review that revealed that, and then you could, as a recommendation, push for researchers committing to long-term studies.
Okay, Val, I think you're going to have to write a strong purpose statement to guide your own work, because if it's about developing a resource, the resource recommendations and a guideline for using that resource for nurses in practice, that's one thing. Doing the kind of detailed, research-oriented review that Amy's talking about is another paper. So whichever I think will work, right?
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, developing a real strong purpose statement and using that purpose statement to weed out all the sideline possibilities and keep you focused. And then write all those other papers later, whatever you do. Tetsuya. Yes. Dr. Kai. Dr. Ito. Ren. Dr. Ren. Ryuchi. Yuko. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think you have received information about a special issue of the International Journal for Human Caring. That's going to be based on work done at this academy. And what we're doing now is getting ideas and actually commitments from authors for papers that would go into that issue. And I think I've talked with Nino, that you and Nino are working on something, or Ito, you and Nino. So if you have any specific idea to present right now, let's hear it. And if you don't have a specific idea right now, we're asking for a title and authorship by July
15.
15th. So I know that's a lot to put on you in the spur of the moment, but, so does anyone over here have already working on an idea for the special issue? Are you already working on an idea?
Where's the email?
Okay, that's fine, that's okay.
Just give it to
That's
us
okay.
sometime.
And I
We
see
have
it.
Dr. Guy, humanoid consciousness.
Well, that's a
Right.
thought, and he may not
Dr.
like that.
Kai, Anne invited you to write an article, tell him.
I'd like to join to write for humanoid consciousness. If he is willing.
Dr. Kai, I used your name in vain here before you arrived. I was saying that yesterday, when you clarified humanoid consciousness and human consciousness, it was very helpful. And I wondered if you might like to write a paper for this journal issue about that. And now I am hearing where you would have a co-author here who would like to write with you.
Books in my luggage.
Oh, that's great. Is that right?
Yeah.
By Nana, I'd like to join Dr. Kai in writing an article about humanoid versus human consciousness.
Do you want to add or something to
Would
that?
that be okay?
Is that what you're saying, Vandana?
Dee would also like to be in that meeting.
Great. And Dee would be
Marlene, I suggest you add Beth's name to the nursing situation, Article 2.
I missed that.
Oh,
Did you add a
nursing situations. We don't have it.
We don't have.
Oh.
That went right by me, sorry.
What, using nursing situations?
To program healthcare robots, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Zane, I'll take a picture of this board
I got
when we're
it.
finished. Okay,
I'll go up and type it.
okay.
Is there one that's just, I know I'm late, I'm sorry. Is there one that's just with like definitions of the terminology we're gonna be using?
Oh, yeah.
There's quite a few publications on taxonomy. I wouldn't rewrite, that.
Would you just put like that in the one sheet in the front for those who are not familiar with that language? Like just a,
Oh, yeah. That would be,
Thank
I think also acronyms.
yes.
Yeah.
We, one of my thoughts about the list of definitions is that naming has brought this out a number of times. Not everyone accepts the same definition for a concept. So, no, we wouldn't want to put it forth as this is the way to think about this concept, but maybe, if necessary, several different approaches to thinking about that concept.
I understand, but if you don't, a lot of people are not that familiar with this. So if you're using acronyms and terms, it's nice to.
I think in each paper too, the authors have to be clear
Yeah.
about what it is they're writing about.
Yeah.
Particularly for the audience for this journal.
Yeah,
Yes.
The audience for
Thank
this
you,
journal
Patty.
isn't going to understand.
yeah.
Or do
The
you not
audience
that
that we're
familiar?
targeting is the nursing community, is that
No,
right?
Yes.
Bigger than that, yeah. Humanities in general?
For this edition.
For this edition.
For this edition?
For this edition.
We are going to, it's almost time to break and go downstairs and get ready for Fast Eye's performance at 9:15. And we're going to continue this strategic planning after Fast Eye's performance. But one last, and
I thought Tetsuo had.
Yes.
Dr. Shinoba, did you talking about the difference between the wearable devices and humanoid robot?
talking about the difference between wearable devices and
And
humanoid
humanoid
robots.
robot.
Yeah.
Oh, Sensors.
Did you?
No.
No. So Dr. Zhao's idea is a wearable device and humanoid robot. We have to
Dr.
clarify
Chow
the device.
and Dr. Tanioka.
For nursing, is there?
For the multidisciplinary practice in the community.
A multidisciplinary practice. And we're always talking about caring.
Yeah, this is Gary.
All these, advancement of caring science is the purpose of the journal, right?
I'm sorry, I don't know if this is worthy of an article, but almost maybe a prologue. As the development keeps growing, developing humanoid robots, how do nurses become part of the interprofessional team of developers? Where do nursing leaders, how do we situate ourselves or inject ourselves into those conversations? It doesn't, to me, I'm not sure it's really worthy of an article, but because there are so many ways, and I think there's definitely position papers that need to be, developed about this before they run away with, we're not on the wagon, or we're not at the table, or whatever,
So maybe at the table.
That's,
the editorial.
that's part of it. Another part of it is an idea that Amy
The call
has.
for nursing's involvement, or for the call for nursing and the development, because, and the planning and the programming and the software, the call for nursing to be very involved, to be a fundamental part of the development.
Hold that thought, it's time to leave.
Okay.
Go downstairs, and then after Vasti will perform the music that he's prepared for us, and then there'll be a chance to dialogue with him about the meaning of that for you and whatever, and then we'll come back here to continue the strategic planning and the wrap up.
Will the door be locked?
And just,
The door will be locked.
after Vasti's performance, if you just stop in the Center for Curing on the first floor and grab a yogurt and bring it back with you, that'll be your morning refreshment, and we'll just come right back here because we haven't walked with you yet.
Some of the delegates wants to see the library preparing downstairs. So is it possible for them to see?
Yes.
Somebody has a journal article they want to propose at the moment. Amy had an idea that we spoke about a minute yesterday, and I asked her if she would bring it up now as part of our strategic plan, not necessarily the journal article, but another element of the strategic plan for following up in an action way on the inspiration that we've generated for this. But Kathleen, you, what?
I can see your email. I was just responding to your question.
What was what? Which was what? Oh, well, tell me now.
I don't see anything in there about interprofessional.
Okay, you want to propose a working title?
Well, we talked about healthcare robots. I guess I just off the top of my head, in interprofessional teams.
Just wanted to let you know that Vasti is bringing up some CDs.
Good.
And you take a credit card and anything else?
Oh, good. And I want to remind everyone, no,
He can do a credit card on his computer. He's got a Square Reader on his computer.
I just want to remind everyone to sign in too.
For today?
Yes.
Where is it?
Okay, so Amy's going to tell us about an idea she had for another aspect of the strategic plan.
Interprofessional, Kathleen?
Healthcare robots on the interprofessional team. That's one more article, healthcare robots and the interprofessional team. No, it's Kathleen.
And Terry. I'm volunteering Terry too.
Terry, yeah, you heard this. Terry, yeah.
I can. Kathleen doesn't mind.
I got it.
So Amy, do you want to go ahead and tell us about your think tank and your white paper idea?
Microphone.
So, I was thinking, and just as a suggestion, depending on the audiences you want to reach and the message that you want to give, but at the Foundation for Responsible Robotics, we publish policies, documents, white papers, and our goal is to reach the general public as well as policymakers with important messages related to robotics innovation. They are usually, they're taking the latest in innovative research, translating that to the general public, but also providing recommendations on how to move forward. So one idea could be for this group to reach out to the general public and or the policymakers through this avenue by creating a document that is addressed to those people. So this is not a peer-reviewed journal article. It's much shorter, very different language, and then it goes through the foundation. So we have an advisory board of more than 30 people, technical, legal, robotics, human-robot interaction people. So it goes through a process of being reviewed before the foundation decides to endorse these kinds of things. So I'm not saying it's a for sure green light, go ahead. But this could be a forum for bringing this conversation to the table.
So does that speak to what Terry, what you and Sue were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I think it does because as I was, getting ready for the question we were to ask today about how do we move this forward, it's a call for action, but it's also definitely a white paper for a position, maybe a position paper or a white paper. I think it's a wonderful idea, and we have to take a stand or we get left behind. So I think we need to position ourselves to be part of these conversations in the development of how we're going to use robots to assist in nursing.
And will you take that on as leadership?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take it on. I'd love for some people to work with me.
Terry, Tui, did you want to work on that?
Terry, Willa? The call for action.
Oh, yeah.
Those are your words. Okay, Willa and Terry.
Both of them, I'm sorry. Oh, and Claudia. Okay. Claudia also, did you get that, Zane? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm doing, now I move to strategic plan.
Right, this is not the journal issues anymore. This is, not that there couldn't eventually be a publication out of it, but what other work do we need to engage in to follow up on the ideas that prompted this academy and that emerged and were sort of crystallized in the course of our dialogue? Sue, come on up here. You're supposed to be running this anyway. All right, and you talk.
Okay. One of the things that came to mind was working in education, because that's kind of where I'm coming from, to look at ways to infuse the curriculum with more about robotic technology so that and I think we could even go interprofessionally, because right here on campus we have the
biomedicine, we have iSense, we have ways that we could work together on how to create caring, to ground, robotics that are gonna be in nursing, to ground them in caring somehow. But I think it's gonna happen within an interprofessional environment because we as nurses are not the ones who have the knowledge to develop the robots ourselves. We would have to partner with engineering, biomedicine, and try to create different sort of learning experiences for students who could work together, so.
Now, you weren't here when, I don't think you were here, but Claire and Don have committed to a manuscript around that idea,
Yes.
maybe not
I was
covering
here.
everything. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But-
but yeah, not, yeah. So we need to really do it, and yeah, your article will be very helpful.
And there's work that you think needs to be done together with that or in addition to that or before the article even is published in 2019, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what would that look, would it be a task force or collaboration with some nursing education organization, or what would that look like?
That's what I was thinking. I really think that like AACN or NON should think about maybe, if they haven't done it already, because I haven't been going to the AACN meetings recently,
Not
to
that I
think
know.
about challenging program planners to get this out there, to see what experts there are already. And then I was wondering, does anybody know, I was fantasizing a course. Has anybody created a course that does kind of a range of exposure for students for a lot of this?
So data collection, find out
Yeah,
who's,
just to kind of
what's
figure it
already
out.
being done and how we can use it and build on it.
Yeah, there's some other, like, I was saying the last time in Harvard, they're talking about data analytics in healthcare and how to expand the meaning of data, big data, and how it's applied in their practice. So they're talking about in there is how to create a course, a curriculum that we offer to use with the current informatics, expanding the informatics.
So including informatics courses, which a lot of places already have.
Yeah, we have informatics, we're math, I think, is robotics and biomedical type information. I think that's where we need to get a little more involved.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, definitely.
Probably the ideas that we generate today are going to be embryonic ideas that then, I think, once we leave here, will be connected at least initially through email, and we'll develop groups who want to work on each one of these ideas, and they will then develop a plan and keep the rest of us tuned into it. Does that sound like what we should be doing?
Could it put it into technology, right? Dr. Rosemary can expand his theory and then infuse robotics, informatics, all kinds of technology there in that course.
They're developing the middle range theory, so that has to be.
That's first. Is that first? Before you're saying that the development of a middle range theory would precede or would be a framework for integrating informatics into your middle range theory.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Tetsuya?
I have the idea of that. One is a humanoid robot and issues of socio-legal aspect from the caring humanoid side.
Yeah.
But this is one.
One idea, the socio-legal aspects of creating
Humanoid nursing robot.
nursing robots. Manuscript.
Oh, that's for the,
Oh, okay. But, yeah.
Zane, did you get that?
Nope, yeah, sort of. gonna go to another.
Socio-legal aspect of creating humanoid robots.
Nurse
Or nurse robots.
HNRs. That would be Tetsuya and his, okay, Ryuichi and, okay.
Can I have one more paper? We already write documentation for the robot engineers, but this time a request from Caring Science to developers and engineers on caring robots. Request. Because yesterday or first day, we're talking about we have 40 theory, but we did not provide to the engineers. This is important.
Okay.
I want to collaborate with some of the theories.
So let me, framing, go ahead, Nino, give me the rest of it.
I want to Dr. Sonnipa. Yeah, Dr. Sonnipa. I want to collaborate with Dr. Smith.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure what to write down.
What do you want? What's the title?
It's a paper?
Paper,
There's a manuscript.
request from Caring Science to the developer of humanoid caring robots.
Framing caring robots. Grounded in caring science, something like that.
Yeah. Of humanoid robots grounded in caring science.
Are there any up there that talk about relationships between humanoid robots and nurses?
There's a paper proposed.
All right.
But I'll just repeat, the deadline for the submission of titles and authorship is July 15th. And then the deadline for submission of the manuscript is November the 1st. And the articles will appear in the last issue of 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
Just so everybody knows the time frame.
And we send the title with authors to Zane and dates.
Say it again.
By July 15th?
Send them to the,
Editors. The issue editors will be Nino Wilhelmino and Sabina, and they're writing an editorial, which is
Okay.
listed down at the bottom. But the articles are gonna go to them to vet and organize.
So
and
we will-
clarify the titles of all the credentials. Well, I'll help you that too.
we will send out an email to that effect when we settle down, like in a day or two. Is that,
So just name two, please, yeah. Oh, good, I got it.
Sabina, I'm worried about the social justice issue. This cannot be another healthcare technology for the rich. How can we approach this? What average person can afford $1,000 a month rental of some robot?
Well,
That would fall under the paper of the.
Social legal?
That's what I think.
Well, and as in the future, they will be cheaper.
Maybe that's part of the next.
Correct. Let's put that next to it.
Social legal manuscript.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Charlotte, because her concern is.
do you want to participate in that manuscript with Ryuichi and Yuko?
Okay.
Yuko, Ryuichi, and Dr. Charo, and Dr. Tsuchiga.
That's okay. July 15th, the title authorship.
Titles are due again by July 15th, so tighten up your title.
We'll send out an email explaining exactly.
And they send it to both you and Nina?
We'll explain in the email.
Oh, in the email, okay.
It'll be to Nino,
And November what?
L over S. November the 1st. Submit the manuscript.
And number 13.
And wants to talk.
Okay. Did you have something?
Okay, who will be there? Number 13, who is with you? Framing or developing.
Oh,
That's
Dr. Dean
Marlene.
Smith.
Marlene.
Yeah.
Okay, Ann, sorry.
Yesterday, we talked a little bit about how nurses see new roles, future roles, and we use robots and their view of how they might be used, how this advanced current science. And I'm just wondering if in Japan or in the Netherlands, if forums could take place to gather information from different parts of the world to try to understand perspectives related to that question. You know, I think that could be interesting. I don't know how cumbersome that would be, but maybe we could comment on a question could come up that could be like a focus group.
Right, like nurses' vision for the future of assistive robots assisting care or something like that. Nurses' vision for.
Current and future practices.
I mean, that would, what do you think, our colleagues from other countries would be here too?
Well, actually, Dr. we're discussing about we're thinking of the acceptability among, I mean, the use of humanoid robots in the Middle East context. Because Middle East a little bit conservative, and there are different cultural attitudes that's similar to other countries such as United States, Canada. And as of this day, I think only Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt have the robotic surgery, but in other parts of Middle East, it's still not embraced, or it is not there.
So what we would need on this is a big convener or a big coordinator, and then people from each geographic region to set up forums in that region. Is this what we're thinking?
But, so I have to push back again on the use of humanoid, right? So we really have to make a decision. Are we talking about the very specific form of humanoid robots in care? Or are we talking about robots in care? Surgical robots are not humanoid robots.
Some people are working on the humanoid HNRs. Other people are working on robotic devices.
What about cyborgs?
I think,
No. Cyborgs. Go ahead.
So Amy, couldn't the art journal have multitude of
You could.
approaches?
You could, but you're also, the more specific you are, the more powerful you
Yes.
are. The more aligned we are in sending a message, if the reader is like, well, wait, so you're talking about the humanoid robots, but you're talking about, it could confuse the reader, and I think it would be very powerful to make a statement that we're all using the same language. We had a workshop where we agreed on the kind of language that we would use to talk about the technology.
Now that's maybe a workshop that needs to be set up for the future.
Zane had something.
Well, I mean, you also have to think about how many articles per issue. And it's usually about 8. Now, we could put 9 in, but overflow could be for not next issues.
Yeah.
As long as that's okay with everybody on the table, okay?
I agree that I think focusing this first one on humanoid.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Well, we don't have to
Whatever
distinguish
comes, comes.
because some people are working on HNRs. They're not going to stop working on HNRs just because somebody thinks HNR is not a good idea. Some people will not work on HNRs, and they can't be made to address HNRs if that's not in their work. So initially, because this is way too early in the nursing world to force a consensus on one thing or the other.
It's
That's-
happening outside of the nursing world, though.
My idea is that what is current needs right now are nursing students or practitioners out there to understand about robotic nursing, about the assisted surgery right now, because we are hearing about that we're educators, but we are not yet there to guide and teach.
So that's obviously one of the imminent.
Yeah,
So if there
imminent.
have to
So,
be choices on what goes
we're thinking about
in this
years
journal,
how many years from now?
Exactly, so I guess that's, I'm thinking that what we have right now are robotic devices. And there are issues related to caring, infusing caring into use of robotic devices. We talked about the lifting one, for example. And so that would be important to address now.
Right. So we just
Could there be a
define.
descriptive article that defines them, and then you could then break out and
some of the issues, maybe that would be the editorial, huh?
The handbook of robotics already, did that a long time ago. So the taxonomies are already there that are also
We'll get 'em.
go through ethical
I'm not writing this tonight.
the different-
I'm not writing this tonight.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's why it's in the hospital.
But that's why you reference them, right? Say, we're not going to provide a taxonomy because it's already been provided. Please see Berigio and Alvarello.
Maybe bridging a gap there to nursing, like the language from robotic world to nursing, like bringing it like a common understanding about the language. Once we put it perfect, the language, it's easy for us to, yes, we're talking the same thing.
who are we reaching? That's what I'm trying to.
That's a good question. Who is the target
Who are
audience?
we trying to?
Are you talking about for this issue, or, because I think Zane had a question, go ahead, Zane.
Oh, I think Sabina said it already, and that is there's acronyms, it will be, thanks. If there are acronyms, they'll be in the article. And I think that people could do also tables with definitions to clarify the terms within, whatever the concepts are within. So people have that, because it is pretty new.
Right now, the initial people that'll be reached in this journal will be the people who study caring science and who ground their nursing practice explicitly in caring science. And then it'll filter out from that. That's one audience. Another audience will be the policymakers and regulatory organizations, right? So every element in our strategic plan doesn't have to address the whole world. But we do want to address the whole world eventually over a range of tasks, right? And I hear what you're saying, Emil, about, for one thing for sure, we have to look at the immediate need. And I also, they haven't said it, but I know because I read so many manuscripts that there will also be an insistence on addressing futuristic ideas that not everyone's comfortable with yet, or maybe never will be. So there'll be those two elements of tension.
Lisa, yes.
I was just wondering, which one of the two issues, one on robotics devices and one on humanoid robots in the future?
Well,
Because that's a lot of articles up there.
Not all of these will come through.
Right.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah. Well, and may I say, besides that, I wouldn't do that for the journal, because you have to say the journal's owned by another organization, and you want to have caring and caring science from a lot of other aspects. I would suggest you think about a book, another
Well,
book.
those conference books that we used to do.
Well, no, I'm not even going there.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
talking about another book with manuscripts as things develop. Like this jewel book we have already. I wouldn't just keep focusing on the journal. I would also go to other journals to get the dissemination really high. I don't know. As people search the term, as Sabina said, it'll come out. The journal issue will diffuse because people will search this terms, these terms, and find articles that are written in this issue.
I think there's only so much we can accomplish today. We can get some basic ideas that are already germinating. And several people, I think Sue would be a great one if she's willing to do this, put these ideas together, not
The strategic
the manuscript, the strategic plan and then send it out, and then we can refine it, add to it, clarify, etc., and then identify people who want to move forward with each component of the strategic plan.
So we do have, I was looking at the first one, the policy paper, we have people there. The infusing curriculum, you're already writing an article on that. Should we have those members also on the strategic plan, or?
Who brought that up about?
The Canadian contingent, right?
No, but the second part of it. This.
Infusing curriculum.
It was my thought that we were going to focus more on, yes, one has to infuse a curriculum and knowledge of how healthcare and nursing is changing in this new person on the interprofessional team in all likelihood. But the focus is I thought, was to also ensure that our students and future nurses were aware of the importance of care, compassionate care, and how do we explore and have them find that and hold on to that when they're going to be pulled into different directions. I'm not sure if that was the focus.
So that's the vision for the article.
Correct.
And there's way more work to be done
Of course,
as
yes.
far as disseminating, developing and disseminating guidelines and tools and whatever for infusing this new content into nursing curricula. So in addition to the article on infusing the curriculum, who wants to work on this task force?
I would.
Okay, so Beth, you put your-
I will try to put my.
I will,
because
That other person, was that the
Kathleen Capo, I would like to have that.
Kathleen Capo?
Did you say ACEN or, yeah, I'll be at their conference next month at ACEN. And I would like to bring this topic up there. The accrediting standards.
Is that any better? None of them are very good.
I just have a little clarification, Sabina. Here. So we have articles listed there, and then what are the task forces? Which I'm just not seeing what, if you can just.
Okay, they're not, well, I don't know that they're task forces yet. They're elements of our strategic plan that we want to move forward with.
Could we call them focus areas?
Focus areas.
Focus areas.
And I would say there would be probably task forces developed, but not necessarily finalized today. So when Sue puts the strategic plan on paper and sends it out, and we refine it a little bit, and then those decisions can be made about what mechanisms will best advance this topic or that topic, and it may be task forces, it may be position papers, it may be meetings.
So I just want to kind of talk about the three areas we have so far. We have the infusing curriculum area. We have the policy focus area, which would include a position paper or policy paper. That'll be part of that group. And then we have the third one, which Ann brought up about that global vision. What is nursing's vision around the world of how robots can assist in nursing? Was that it, Ann, or do you want to refine that a little bit?
Well, what I had jotted down is that each region would have a leader to organize a forum with nurses and look at the views of the new roles for nurses in that area, views of how robots might partner in care, and views of how caring would be advanced.
New roles. Okay, you've got that. Good. Okay.
But forums was the mechanism that
Right. Okay.
to have, geographic or area leaders to establish forums.
Still three, or was that four?
That's three. The third one is nurses' vision of their roles.
Wouldn't the IAHC conference be a good place to do that work? I mean, you certainly get people from all over, would be one place that we could easily accommodate.
Is someone here on the planning committee for that next show? How about that? How serendipitous.
I can't turn on.
Somebody's on.
I am, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, I think it's a great place to do it. The theme of next year's conference is is interprofessional caring, reimagining the patient care experience.
Oh, wow.
So one can imagine focus groups on reimagining the patient care experience, which includes robotics of all type, and how that might affect new roles and advance human care. So I think that on the planning committee, we can make space for that.
Well, can we add your name to that focus area?
Yes.
Thank you.
Some marvelous doctoral student needs to collect the data.
That would be a lovely, lovely.
Kathleen, what's the dates of that in relationship to the ABI next summer?
It's May 30th through June 2nd.
And the ABI is what, May,
The ABI is June 19th, 20th, and 21st, with the focus on social justice from.
I'm gonna arbitrarily, I have a new watch, everybody. So I'm looking at my watch, and this is a good start on a strategic plan. This is not the last time this is gonna be visited, nor the last time you're gonna have an opportunity to help develop and refine it. I think now we need to call on Ann to help us wrap up and get ready to take this out. Yeah, isn't it? It's 20 after 11.
Don't forget to send, you'll get an email that Sabina and Nino, I'm gonna call them Novena.
Before just briefly, your contact hours or certificate forms are up here, and if you could just complete your program evals and put them on the table and pick up your certificate when you're ready. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. Sue, I just have down here, and I just want to take it off or else keep it. But I had a note here about collaborating with AACN or other organizations.
It's there.
Is it, so
Somewhere.
maybe like Marlene and Zane, people who are in positions to, bring this dialogue to that level.
I think the planning committee is new this year for the AACN, at least for the doctoral conference, but we could probably get in touch with somebody from AACN about the idea and maybe bring it to one of the conferences.
Oh, yes. Charlotte?
The college publishes a Journal of Art and Aesthetics in Nursing and Health Sciences, and we have a brand new issue. And Beth and I and Maria O'Donis are the current editors of the journal, and we'd like to give everyone a copy of the current journal to look at and appreciate and think about submitting for publication for our next issue, which hopefully will be in the fall. So. Yeah, so we have some, the previous issue, which the cover, by the way, was a painting done by Kathleen Capo. And the cover of our current issue is done by the incoming, I guess, President-elect of IAHC, Kathleen Sitzman. So we invite you to take a look, take a journal or two with you, And we hope to hear from you in the future about submitting your own artistic expressions. Thank you.
Well, it's the time to wrap up, maybe get on airplanes, get in cars, and think. Continue our reflection on the stimulating 2.5 days. I wonder, would you want to share any of your thoughts at this point after having been through these 2.5 days, the meaning to you, anything that you might like to share with colleagues in the room? I would invite you to go ahead and do that if you like.
I'll share.
Kathleen?
I'm leaving thinking about the urgency of rising to challenge and how essential that is.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm just thankful for being part of this whole process, this whole creation. Like, it's not.
Anyone else?
I'm thinking about the importance of
Will.
the work. Oh, sorry. The importance of the work and the challenge of moving it out to those at the bedside and work sites, and how we can have them embrace and be a part of it.
I'm thinking of the immense power of care in nursing and the influence that we have, but often don't recognize. When you hear somebody like Baste reflect back on nursing and caring, it's sort of like, oh wow. So I would hope we're going to move forward with power and claim what it is that we do that enhances and improves.
Thank you. Yes. Is it on?
Sorry, I didn't mean So I too am grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of such a wonderful forum. And the takeaway that I have is this idea of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So the fact that we can't become complacent or just do things as we've always done it, but try to get ahead of things and really shape the way the future looks.
Thank you. Yes?
I'm very grateful for the Sigma Theta Tau for giving the scholarship to attend the ABI. It's a wonderful experience, my first time to attend. And you appreciate nursing as being a dynamic profession, like evolving, always adapting to changes around you, especially with humanoid robots. So the possibilities are there, endless.
Thank you. Yes, Cyrus.
Well, for me, the language of nursing will always be the caring self. The caring language is universal. It is phenomenal, and it is also existential. So on our part, when we go back to Muslim Arabic countries, we also try to uphold and to speak the language of nursing, which is caring. And of course, if I would try to describe the experience that I have here, it is a soul-felt connectivity.
Wow, very nice, thank you.
Somebody.
Oh, I just turned mine on.
Okay.
Cyrus makes me think, is it possible to think about having this video, I guess it's video, available to bring back to different places to share with our colleagues elsewhere, to see this work that's being done?
What our hope is, intention is regarding the video, it's 2.5 days. It's a long time to sort through all of that. So we've talked about trying to look at parts of this and have it available, perhaps as we mentioned at the beginning, on YouTube, maybe sections of it, so we could access it that way.
Through ABI?
It is through the website. On the ABI website, under resources, are all of the YouTubes that have been developed and all different resources, but that's where you would find this. Now, the whole video will be available in the archives here, as we mentioned earlier. So yes, the whole video would be available, but we will try to get out there some of the important parts of this. It's all important in different clips, perhaps. Good. Isn't that what we had said at the board meeting? Yeah. But that'll take time. Yeah. Charlotte?
I'd also like to add my debt of gratitude to our colleagues from Japan who have been working on developing this.
Yes.
To bring this to nursing, to bring this to us, to bring it to the world. We're very grateful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank anybody who's not a nurse for being here today, and Amy especially, because your work is definitely global, impactful, and compelling. So we're very grateful to all of you non-nurses.
I'll add my gratitude to Nino, Sabina, and the whole planning committee, because it's to put on an academy like this is a lot of work, I know, and every year I feel like they're all so excellent, but they're different, and this was so rich and in an area that many of us nurses don't know a lot about, so I felt like we learned so much. And it was just and then Basti with our artists in residence gave us
Yes, absolutely.
deep understanding of what we're doing. So great experience.
Thank you, Marlene. Yes.
I'm also very thankful for this school as well as Sigma Theta for having such a forum here. Again, it's my first time in this academy, in this summer academy, and I liked it so much. And then for this network, global network, I feel like connected to all the Eastern, West, and all regions. And I feel not only nurses, but for me personally also, we have expanded our roles and responsibilities and further commitments to nursing as well as our society.
Thank you. And we're glad you're here. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. And I saw the panel in the hall of the breakfast in the spirit of caring, sharing, and giving. It's a very moving. And I have also thanked this that we are not the literature. Our voice recording is very important. So the engineering and the outside, please big hand.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I know every year, going along with Marlene, what you were saying, every year as I leave the academy, I feel overwhelmed. And Steve can tell you, I'll go home and I'll say, oh my God, there's so much to do. There is so much to do that our but our commitment drives us to get it done. And if we look back over the academies that we've been a part of and the results that have come from the dialogue that have enriched and enhanced the advancement of caring knowledge, you know, I am very proud and grateful to everyone who's participated in each and every one of these academies for their thoughtfulness, their hard work, and their passion and commitment to see this through. Not to leave here, but to respond when we get the emails and put you know, and to do the hard work that follows these to make things really happen. And we do that, and it's really quite beautiful. So as Terry said, we are, yes, Beth, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd like to start. You know, every time when I come, but I love the content, and I really love the robots. But what I value and treasure most is seeing everyone again, renewing our relationships. You know, I love all of you. It's just wonderful to see you here again, hear what you've been doing, and reconnect. That's what I really value, is the development of our relationships and the future years together. So thank you for coming again. And thank you for the
And thank you for fostering that renewal. So, I don't know. Yes, Val.
I just wanted to let everyone know that that database is permanent on QuickBooks, you know, under the access that I gave you, so it's open anytime that you want to access any of those articles, download the PDFs, do whatever, you know, for your research there. So that will be a permanent database there for you.
Okay, thank you. That was a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Sabina.
This gratitude is what I'm taking away from here. Gratitude, well, first of all, to Nino and Tetsuya and to everyone who wrote the book that more or less stimulated the evolution of this gathering. So thank you very, very much. I'm very grateful. And I'm so grateful for the dialogue. And, you know, once, I guess about Sunday, I just felt like I didn't have any more work to do. The stage was set. And I knew a lot of you before from previous academies or other opportunities. So I knew the dialogue would happen and it would be rich and it would be worthwhile and it would push us into the future. So I'm very grateful. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Sabina.
So as one of the old historians in this group, you know, from the beginning of the caring movement in 1978, this is a phenomenal experience to see the growth and development and the sharing and the interprofessional collaboration and international collaboration, you know, how far we've come, you know, from that initial small group to talk about caring as the essence of nursing, and, you know, just to see this development and beauty that we share today. So thank you all so much.
It's 40 years, right? We're at 78.
Yeah.
40 years. I remember that. I remember that because Kathleen was presenting her dissertation work at that. Well, no, that could have been 40 years ago.
That was 85.
That was 85. No, wait a minute. Yeah.
But inspired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that this has become a home, as many have articulated, but I want you to know that you also have a second home and are invited to Clemson. We're happy to be able to support this home for the summit for this year, but also to extend this work, I think that, I think about the summit as a think tank area that helps to generate ideas, and then we can move them into other forums, one of which is the Caring Conference, one of which is the journal. So I think that there's some incubation that happens here, and then part of the dissemination is there. So I really do invite people to the conference, and for the conference we'll have as the sponsor for with IHC in Greenville. And I've passed out save the dates, and there'll be more coming.
Yes. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're very grateful for your continuing support, Clemson University's continuing support, along with Marlene with the college support for this, because we are small, which makes it a little expensive. You know, if you're big, you can have more people and you generate revenue. We are always lucky to just kind of make it. But it's not about that. It is about how our dialogue can contribute to the growth and the advancement of caring and nursing, and that's the big picture.
I think the important thing is when we started this whole idea of talking about caring robots and humanoid nurse robots and all those types of robots, all came from the idea of Dr. Tanioka, and he has his own research focused on caring robots, actually, was what he called it. And so the idea of the book actually is his, right? And it just happened that I was around in Japan, and that's the whole creation. And then, of course, Sabina was invited to do the foreword, and so she read it, and then she said, wow, this is going to be something. And so that was the whole, the evolution of where we are today. And so I'd like to thank Dr. Tanioka and the team for all this that's happening, and the ABI as well, for taking on the idea of spreading. And Sabina, of course, was instrumental, simply because I was out there and she was here. So you know what that means. We're 12 hours, different. Okay, we're ahead. So she oftentimes gets the bulk of what's going to happen and what's happening. So thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Dr. Tanioka, and thank you, Anne, and for all of us. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, just to, Dr. Kai.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. This academy is great. I think so. Yeah. So my request in this academy was to study the functions needed in humanoid nurse robots. I have had some functions in this academy, especially I am interested in hearing touch. So yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a story based on what Nino said. You know, we kind of try to plan our ideas for future academies, and so we were thinking about this year's academy, and of course we had a title down of what we thought we were going to do. And Savina had called me and said, we really need to do something with robots. I think we really need to do something with that. And I'm like, robots? So then I thought about it, and she gave me a few things to read, and I thought, oh wow, this is really cutting edge. We really do have to do something with this. And so we brought it to the board, and one of my good colleagues on the board said to me, are you crazy? What are you doing? I won't mention who that colleague was. But, you know, wow, how grateful that we just can follow what seems to be really important and trust that that idea is going to take us where we need to go, and it has. Yes?
I'm just going to, as I was thinking what to say, I want to commend you, because looking at this is very courageous, and much of nursing is not. They don't believe it's going to happen, don't want it to happen, and continues on the way we are. So thank you for being so courageous in pushing us all to
Yes, Wilma.
I was at a conference a year ago for association executives. There is an association for every single thing on earth.
Yes.
And so this association, I get to interact with people from different associations. The keynote presentation said, as a profession, you should all get ahead of artificial intelligence and robotics. And you need to go back and work on this right away. So you all either have ESP or you are just very, very perceptive, smart, and well, you should be as nurses. So it was, when I saw that this was happening, I was jumping up and down because I was thinking, how are we gonna do this? And, you know, as usually happens in nursing, someone thinks of it and someone attacks it. And so this is supporting my work, and I am just really happy. I'm not really happy that it comes from my university, but it's just fabulous that nurses are so forward-thinking.
Thank you. Well, I would just like to end by thanking each one of you for the special gifts that you have brought to this dialogue, because it is your voice, your ideas, your thinking, your challenges that have spurred us and that will continue to move caring forward. So thank you for the gifts that you bring and for your willingness to share your ideas and your openness to that, to different ideas. Thank you. In your packet, in your packet, I think you've all done the release form, is that right? You've all signed the release form. And also you have a post-academy survey form. It's the first time we've done that. So we would appreciate your filling out that post-academy form, and if you have suggestions, we would welcome the suggestions. And then, of course, the continuing education forms. And there's some of you who would like to take a tour of the archives that haven't yet seen the archives. I'll be right here, and I'll be happy to take you down and give you a little tour of the archives. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you.
So Basti,